This is a Fox News alert. We will take you back to the Journal editorial report, but first, here is Senator Marco Rubio holding a rally in Kennesaw, Georgia. Take a listen.
The party
live.
of Lincoln and Reagan and of the conservative movement, an individual that's never even voted in a Republican primary, who stands and agrees with Hillary Clinton on Planned Parenthood, on being neutral when it comes to Israel, uses their talking points that if you don't support government-sponsored health care, you're in favor of letting people die in the streets. I mean, this is a dream for the Democratic Party to have a Republican nominee like that. And you know, the media, you guys are sharpening your knives. As soon as he's the nominee, they're going to descend on him like the hounds of hell, and they're going to tear him apart for all the horrible things that he's done in his business career. So we're not going to allow someone like that to be our nominee. We're going to nominate a conservative to be the head of the party of Lincoln and Reagan. Well, we are going to win. When it gets to the early, we're going to win in Florida. We're going to win in the early states.
Anything else on the 15th?
Well, we'll find out on the 15th. We feel very optimistic about the number of delegates we're going to win, which is what this race is about. This is not a traditional race. Usually in a race like this, people are pushing you and they're rallying. At some point, they say everybody needs to get out so that someone we really are inspired by can go ahead and wrap up the nomination. That's not what's going to happen with Donald Trump. The majority of Republican voters do not want Donald Trump to be our nominee, and they are going to support whoever is left standing that is fighting against him to ensure that we do not nominate a con artist to be the nominee of the Republican Party in this very important election cycle.
So why didn't you go on offense earlier?
Governor Kasich and Senator Cruz were in the race.
Well, they have a right to be in the race. I mean, they've worked just as hard as we have, and they're out there just as much as we are, and I'm never going to ask for anybody to drop out of the race. They have a right to be in it as long as they want to be in it. Ultimately, through process of voters and otherwise, this race will narrow down. And when it does, it'll be a clear choice. And when voters have a clear choice between two people, that's when Donald Trump starts to lose. So the sooner that happens, the better off we're going to be as a party.
Senator, why didn't you go on offense earlier?
Why do you think Trump had to release his tax return?
Well, I think part of it is he's not as rich as he says he is. I mean, this is a guy who inherited millions of dollars from his father. Had he put that money in an index stock market fund, he would have been one of the richest people in the world. He would have as much money as Warren Buffett. Instead, he took that money on a bunch of risky business deals. It's part of the fraud that he's perpetuating. He's going around telling people he's this great businessman who was successful in business and will do the same for America. I hope not. He took 4 companies into total bankruptcy. This is a guy who had his creditors put him on an allowance. We've had calls all over the place over the last 48 hours. Bankers calling us, other people saying, you know, all kinds of insight into Donald Trump. And one of them is, you know, when he took one of his companies bankrupt, they put Donald Trump on an allowance. So it's part of what con artists do. You know, they come to you and they try to help you make you believe that they're something that they're not. It's how he got people into Trump University. And then they realized it was a con and they lost their money. We're not going to let that happen to the country, the most important country in the world.
Senator,
I mean, should you not have taken that kind of an aggressive approach 3-4 months ago?
Well, look, what I always hope that voters would eventually see this for what it is. Obviously, we live in a different dynamic today, and it's gone too far. And so it's clear now that if we're going to save the Republican Party from being taken over by a con artist, we're going to have to start making the case more aggressively, and I'm more than happy to do it. The stakes are that high and that important.
Senator,
Thank you, guys. Thanks. I got to go out to the stage.
Thank you.
Can we talk
Thank you guys. We're going to have you exit through the door that's Thanks for coming.
You were just listening live to Senator Marco Rubio. He was speaking to reporters in Kennesaw, Georgia.